What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video here today. And we are finally here. Transformers 1 is finally upon us, and I have just seen the movie. First part of this review, for anybody wondering, I will not be giving away any spoilers, and I will give a warning before I start going into spoilers. But just as a first reaction, I think they knocked it out of the park with this movie. Now, was it entirely perfect? No, of course not. But was it a fantastic Transformers movie? 100%. And I think this is the first time I can say the reviews definitely matched the product. I have really no outstanding complaints about this movie. Other than one thing, the one complaint I will say is I actually wish it was a little bit longer. I do understand why it wasn't, but maybe that's just me being a greedy Transformers fan wanting a little bit more. But the ending was just absolutely phenomenal. And that's why I wish that there was a little bit more. And the ending certainly leaves the door wide open for this to continue and be its own thing. Transformers 1, this new Transformers universe, not really connecting to anything else that we've had. And it could certainly be a brand new direction they could go in, and they could certainly churn out a bunch of movies. And that's why I'm really hoping this movie does well at the box office. So Lorenzo and them back at Paramount see this and decide we want more of it. When it comes to the movie itself, I did really like the way the story went, and I thought it was you could just tell that the people that made this movie were true Transformers fans. This movie is absolutely packed to the brim with Transformers references, pieces of lore that true Transformers fans are only going to know. It's not just like surface level stuff. They're just straight up referencing things. They talk about people, name drop different things with the primes and the way that Transformers universe works, that it's really like there were times where I was like, this is not a kid's movie. Or I mean, it obviously is a kid's movie, but in the same vein as Spider-Verse, there's a lot of stuff in there that's just not for kids. That kids are not going to pick up on. And the adult fans are just going to eat it up. And this is exactly what we've been wanting. And then when it comes to the violence, when the actual combat starts, they don't hold back at all. I was thinking of, it was bringing me right back to the Clone Wars when Darth Maul was really at his peak, when he was coming back with Savage Opress, and just the ruthlessness of Maul. It's even more crazy because, of course, these are robots, so they can really go all out. And I'm not going to give away specific spoilers about like who's dying and how different things are happening. But there is a main character death that happens in, I wouldn't say main character, but basically this one Transformer, the way that he gets killed is absolutely insane. And it was truly awesome. The sequence that they were splicing it with, the contrast between the two characters, absolutely phenomenal sequence. The visuals were fantastic. Honestly, I'm gushing about this movie because it truly is blowing me away, and it makes me so happy as a Transformers fan to be finally saying all this. But all the reviews and the things that were coming out about this movie, they were not lying. They were not bullshitting. It is a truly amazing Transformers movie. Now, let me get a little controversial for you guys. Is it better than G1? Is it the best Transformers movie? Honestly, I'm going to hit it with the hot take. I think it is. I think this is the best Transformers movie ever made. And my personal favorite is Dark of the Moon. And I know the Bayverse is controversial. I know you got the G1 diehards. But I truly think this is really the perfect mix of everything. And of course, it is, I was going to say it is animated so people can hold it against it. But here's the thing. Most Transformers fans consider G1 to be the best movie over the Bayverse movies. And so we're putting animated versus animated here. And I know a lot of the old heads are going to be like, oh, nothing will ever top G1. But let me tell you right now, I think this story is much more streamlined, cohesive, and neater than the story of G1. Of course, what we got in the original Transformers, the movie, was a massive storyline and things happen. But there's certainly a lot to critique in there. And I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty here, but I definitely think this movie overall, I think it's the best Transformers movie they've ever made. And of course, this is very early on. My opinion could certainly change with multiple rewatches. I've only seen the movie once, but watching it once, I'm like, damn, I want to go back and pause every little moment and look through this, because there is truly a little bit for everybody. And even if your favorite Transformers character isn't prominently featured in the movie, he or she is going to be there. Pretty much everybody you could think of that is a prominent Transformers character, without, of course, going crazy with like the different universes and stuff like that. All your G1 bots are there. And the different things that are in there, and this is not really a spoiler, but this is, I'm going to give something away that is in the movie. It's not really a spoiler for the plot or anything, but the music they use, they used different cues. Now, I'm not 100% sure if they used any of the Bayverse score. I didn't really hear that. But I heard the Transformers Prime score multiple times. And me personally, that was hitting me, that was getting in my emotions a little bit, because I was like, damn, this is bringing me back. And that was the thing. There's so many moments in this movie that perfectly hit on the emotional notes that they were aiming for, and they knocked it out of the park. And that's why I think the rewatchability is going to be off the charts. And I think people are going to go see this movie multiple times. This is going to be, like they compared it to, similar to the Spider-Verse. I really hope so. The last thing I'll touch on in the non-spoiler section just has to do with the performances of the cast. And I think, honestly, everybody in the cast knocked it out of the park. And the biggest concern for me was definitely Keegan-Michael Key going into it as Bumblebee, because me personally, I think his style of comedy and his personality could definitely overpower some of the roles he tries to perform, and it really doesn't feel like he's playing a role. He just feels like he's playing Keegan. But in this, I feel like it really was magic in a bottle with when it comes to Bumblebee, because Bumblebee was not the most prominent featured main character in the core four of this movie with D16, Orion, Elita, and B. He was kind of just the comic relief of the group. Now, he does certainly, when they get their cogs towards the end of the movie and the action really starts, he has a lot to do, and he definitely is a capable warrior in combat. But then again, he is still the comic relief, and he still is going to have his comedy lines throughout the movie. Elita is absolutely fantastic. I really like the way they had her really be a hard ass for the majority of the movie and really be hard on them. And it really took Orion proving himself to win her over in the end. And by the end, she is his biggest supporter, and she is, I'm not going to talk about the spoilers, but I'll get into that in a second. But Elita, Scarlet killed it. Keegan killed it. Now, when we come to our two main stars, Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron, as D16, he was fantastic. And the way that he switched from the more softer with hints of darkness D16 to the full-on batshit classic crazy Megatron was fantastic. And this is one of, if not the best portrayal of Megatron we have gotten in Transformers, period. I would put this next to my top two being Transformers Prime Megatron and this Megatron in this movie. Honestly, he's that fantastic. And he's not even Megatron for that long. That whole turn happens relatively closer to the end of the movie. And that's not really a spoiler, because you look at the runtime in this movie, it's not the longest movie. That is really my complaint. Like I said earlier, I wish it would almost be a little bit longer, but they really are teasing us with the way that this ends and opens the door to, this is Transformers, and now we're full on into the swing of this thing. So Brian Tyree Henry killed it. One of, if not the best Megatron portrayals we've seen. Now to Chris Hemsworth. I think he as Optimus Prime, I'll be honest, I really like Chris Hemsworth, but it really was hard for me to see him as Optimus Prime. And even still, up to the point where I was watching this movie, I was like, I'm not 100% sure about this. Do I love this? But by the end of it, his charisma, his character, I'm not saying, I would never say that he took over Optimus Prime and he is like the new Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime is always Peter Cullen. But Chris Hemsworth's spin on Optimus Prime, and just maybe it's just because the speeches they had him saying were so good and the musical score undermining it was so fantastic, but he gives a number of speeches, or just there's moments with him throughout this movie, and he absolutely knocks it out of the park as Optimus Prime. And like Chris Hemsworth said in interviews, and I covered this in videos months ago, if not maybe a year ago, he had said, I reached out to Peter Cullen, and I've been watching his work over multiple series, not just the G1, not just the movies, pretty much all these different things, games, movies, all these things. And I have studied and I've talked to him about emulating his voice as Optimus Prime, because he's arguably one of, if not the most iconic voice in science fiction. Darth Vader is definitely number one. Rest in peace to James Earl Jones, absolute legend. But next to Darth Vader, I think it's Optimus Prime as the most iconic voice in fantasy media. But Peter Cullen, Chris Hemsworth, you can 100% feel the Peter Cullen vibes, but it works so much better because he's not Optimus Prime, the seasoned leader yet. He's young. He is Orion Pax, the lowly minor bot that is becoming Optimus Prime. And his voice and the way he works it certainly evolves over the course of the movie. And honestly, Orion Pax may be my favorite character in this movie, just from the very beginning. The way that they have him, the way that they have him written as this inquisitive, kind of rebellious miner. I do really like the spin on it rather than like the cop or the librarian or the clerk. But overall, that will probably wrap up my non-spoiler section, because I am itching now to get into the finer details of why I love this movie so much. So let yourself be warned. Consider yourself warned. This is the end of the non-spoiler section. And now I will be getting full on into the spoilers of the movie. So first of all, when it comes to the plot, I'm sure many of us had suspicions, villainous, but I don't, you see, me personally, I thought the Quintessons were going to play much larger of a role when it comes to being the main villain, but it actually seems more so that they set them up as this looming threat and the kind of reason for the absence of the Matrix, the absence of the Primes, and the reason why no one can go on the surface, why they have to mine for Energon, and Sentinels pretty much bargain with them of giving them all the Energon and allowing him to pretty much be the king of Cybertron. And he's like this playboy superstar that they all worship. I was not expecting it to kind of just be Sentinel as the main villain in this, but Sentinel's not even really the main villain. Well, I mean, he is, but he's used as the crux to form Megatron. And I think the way that they formed Megatron throughout the course of this movie, it was absolutely amazing. And you can 100% feel the friendship and the relationship between Orion and D16, and you can excuse me, and you can understand it, you can resonate with it, it resonates with you, and it makes total sense why their split is, because the hints of darkness and the different mentality that D16 has, or Megatron has, are established from the very beginning. He literally idolizes the most brutal, the most badass of the Primes, Megatronus, and he's always had that harder edge, and you see that throughout the course of the movie through multiple interactions, and you can really see Prime, or Orion, whatever you want to call him, feel his friend changing before his very eyes. And the way you see that happening is fantastic. And just jumping all the way to that end, where I was kind of referencing this earlier, the way that Megatron kills Sentinel Prime is like, that was blowing me away. But like, I could not believe that he straight up went for the Homelander and ripped him in half. Super badass, textbook Megatron. And this is what I'm saying, like, this is oh yeah, this is a kid's movie. Boom, ripping him apart, screaming, brutal, as you see his like veins, the circuits that make him up be torn apart like the robot guts. Like, it's crazy. It was badass. And the way that scene is spliced with the carcass of Orion Pax falling through the chasm to the core of Cybertron, to Primus itself, where he is then greeted by the Primes and granted the rank of Optimus Prime. And that is where I'm pretty sure, unless it just takes inspiration from, I'm pretty sure they use hints of the Transformers Prime theme here and then earlier in the movie. There's another scene where Orion Pax first is coming back to the Icon City, and he goes first to the mines, and this is where like all the Autobot characters are. You have Ironhide, you have Prowl, you have RC, you have my boy Jazz, and you have all the G1 bots. They're all the cogless Transformers, and pretty much the storyline is Sentinel Prime, when he made this deal, he pretty much backstabbed the Primes, set him up for a trap, killed them all alongside the Quintessons, and he's pretty much been the Quintessons' bitch as he rules Cybertron. He keeps everyone in the dark about the fact that the surface, you can go on the surface, it's just the fact that the Quintessons are running shit up there, and we have to kind of keep it clean for them. But Sentinel's kind of fucking psychopath, because as the Autobots and all these other Autobots, Decepticons, whatever they are at the time, the cogless Transformers, the miners, like the slave workers of the Transformers, Sentinel literally takes the cog from their body when they're still little sparklings, or when they're still like little hatchlings, and their spark isn't even activated yet. This dude is fucking demonic. So you can understand why Megatron is pressed, but they have Sentinel completely beaten, and Megatron is insistent on killing him, and he's throwing Orion to the side, and Orion of course dives in front of Sentinel, taking the blow, and that blows off half of his chest and his entire left arm, and D16 Megatron catches him, and then we have the moment where his eyes go from orange to red as he's first grieving for the fact that, oh my god, I can't believe I've done this to my friend, what's going on? And then he has the switch where he's like, I'm done watching your back, I'm done with this nonsense, and he drops him. And that's where, of course, that triggers the sequence where then Megatron kills Sentinel, and Orion becomes Optimus. And then when Optimus comes back, absolute fire sequence for the next like 2 minutes, where they're fighting just with the transformations and the fighting, the different weapons they're using, the flamethrowers, when Optimus gets his battle axe and he starts swinging it around and it has an energy attack. When he's swinging in a direction, it releases an energy burst as an attack. Then we have the awesome sequence that I kind of wish they didn't spoil in the trailer, but I guess that I know they wanted that money shot, where you have Starscream, Soundwave, and Shockwave all pull up on Optimus, and he's just beating the ever-living shit out of all three of them. But let me get to our Starscream, Shockwave, and Soundwave. I liked what they used for them. I think, what was it? I may be misremembering, but I think they were the elite guard who were on the surface of the planet, and they were basically working against Sentinel. And when our protagonists are on the surface of the planet, when they track down Alpha Trion, when they get their cogs, and then they're fleeing back to Iacon to pretty much spill the beans that Sentinel is working with the Quintessons and he killed all the other primes, they are intercepted by Starscream, who is leading pretty much all the Seekers, and Shockwave and Soundwave and these Decepticons, and they're pretty much just taking refuge in this broken ship hull on the surface of the planet. And Megatron, this is where Megatron starts winning over the Decepticons, because Starscream is pretty much the leader here, and Megatron doesn't respect him. Starscream triggers the 1v1 and gets his absolute shit knocked in. And this is followed up with this really awesome battle scene where Optimus, Elita, and a lot of the Decepticons are left behind, but Sentinel is able to catch Sentinel and Arachnid, who is his second in command. She's pretty cool in this movie too. She's just devious. She's just a demon from the jump. Not really anything redeemable about her. But they capture D16 and Bumblebee and bring them back to Iacon, and that's where you get the whole scene where Sentinel is pretty much gloating to them, and he brands D16 with the Decepticon logo. But overall, amazing combat. Every piece of combat in this movie was fantastic. The animators killed it. The colors that they used in the different scenes and the sequences, fantastic. I love how they have the Viacons, and although it's different continuity, I like how they're still keeping a lot of things similar. Like they're taking homage from everything. Like even Sentinel's design, while he has more of his OG color scheme, he has the design that is very similar to the Baver Sentinel Prime, even to the fact that he has the back fins. But when it comes down to the ending, like I said before, my only complaint was I wish this movie was longer, but I totally get how this is kind of like the prequel to the story, and that's exactly what it is. That's what they advertised it as. That's what it is. This is the origin that then kicks off the entire Transformer universe, where they're going forward and they're into the entire conflict between them. This is what's kicking off the conflict. And while it was awesome, it left me just wanting more at the end. And of course, at the end, after they see Megatron kill Sentinel and they all rally around him, that's when he gets the Decepticons to follow him. And the movie ends with Optimus having one of his iconic speeches, kind of saying he's reminiscing about the friendship that he's now lost with Megatron, because he beats his ass and then he lets him go. He's like, "You are banished from Iacon. Pack your shit and leave." And he gives him the chance to go. And Megatron is, of course, "This is not over, Prime." And Megatron cannot believe the fact that Optimus was worthy of the Matrix. But awesome sequence, awesome scenes. I think they really did a lot of the characters justice. There's not really anyone that I think was done dirty in this movie. It was the origin of D16 and Orion. The other characters were just accessories to this one, and they all enhanced it, in my opinion. All the characters that got their shine with the Icon race in the beginning, just every little piece of this movie is riddled with love of Transformers and Easter eggs. And I'm sure off the top of my head, there's some things I'm probably forgetting to go over, but that is about it when it comes to my first impressions fresh out of the movie, when it comes to spoilers, non-spoilers. And then at the very end, when it comes to Optimus giving his little speech, pretty much threatening the Decepticons, and he's also saying we're going to protect the planet from the Quintessons. So they're definitely setting up the conflict in the next movie to probably be the Autobots defending Cybertron from the Quintessons, with the Decepticons probably interjecting at some point and causing them some grief. Or what they could do is have the movie pick up with the fact that it's just been the Autobots fighting the Decepticons for some time now, and then the Quintessons come back and really mess some stuff up, and maybe you could play with the fact that they have to team up or something like that. There's so many ways they could go with this. They could go against the Quintessons, they could just go against more stuff on Cybertron with the two factions fighting each other and different stories like that. The door is wide open for this. And I really hope they seize the opportunity and they don't try to force the world to get smaller. I hope they don't see the success and they're like, okay, let's tie it into other things. Let's try to do a million things with this. No, you have something really good here. Let it grow. Let the people share their response, hear the feedback, and make the best decision and run with this new universe you have. And we may be in for a lot of years of really good content here as Transformers fans. But with that being said, I'm going to be doing a lot more videos about this movie. I'll have a full breakdown of the full movie. That'll probably be coming out with the official release in a few more days. But until then, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Have you seen the movie, or are you excited to go see it? Have you got your tickets? Are you ready to go? Let me know in the comments down below. Likes, dislikes, anything is appreciated. And until next time, peace.